Hi, I'm Andrew Kamazinski at Hokkaido University of Education at the Asayakawa campus, and this is part of a series of flips about critical thinking. If you are starting from the course explanation, this one would be the ninth. If you are taking the class, this one would be the eighth. So, this one is about arguments by analogy, and this is something that I think is very important, but it's also proved to be a challenge for me to come up with ways to teach. Now, an analogy is a concept that is very important in English-speaking academia. It seems to be a little bit less important in Japanese-speaking academia. So let's look at our slide together. So the first word is a ryuji, which is the Japanese word for an analogy, two kinds that seem together or seem similar. The second word that we can look at is ryuisui. Ryuisui is to use similarity between two things to draw a conclusion. So notice that we've moved from noting the similarity to drawing conclusions from the similarity. Same kanji that's in suizoku. So I would define an argument by analogy as follows. 類推による論証。2つの事例で共通点から類似を挙げて、同じ種類のもとで1つ目について正しいことは2つ目について正しいと押す。This is similar to what we'll look at in a bit, which is a generalization. In a generalization, we're doing an ipanka, 複数の例を集めて、それから推測します。それから別の結論を成り立つことができます。Okay, let's get a little bit of practice just working with analogies on the most basic level. So I'm going to give you three analogies on this slide. The first analogy is that blue is to sky as brown is to earth. Now, as you can see, what's similar between these two is a color. But that's not the only similarity. So if I said red is to sky as blue is to earth, this would be equally about color. But there's more that we can think of. There's a common theme that binds these two things together. In this case, that common theme is this is the color we associate with that thing. Second one. Rock is to heavy as feather is to light. Now, these are kind of the thoughts we have about the weight of the thing that we're talking about. Third one, I apologize, it's a little hard to see. So I'll write the words for you again. So tree is to climb as ocean is to swim. So in this case, what is it that binds them together? So you can climb a tree, you can swim in the ocean. So this is an activity that we can do in order to enjoy the thing. Or as I wrote it here, this is how you can interact with that thing. So the tree is the thing that we climb, the ocean is something that we swim in. Possibly there are other ones that we could do. We could ride a boat on it, all sorts of different ones. Some will be better than others. We'll talk about that in a bit. So here's another one. So sheep are to Genghis Khan as bulls are to steak. So this is the animal and this is the sort of meat that people eat from. So here we go. We've got sheep, people eat them as Genghis Khan. We've got bulls, people eat them as steak. Flying squirrels are to squirrels as sugar gliders are to possums. So a flying squirrel looks like this. It has a membrane that connects its arm to its leg. A possum also has a similar thing. So we might be able to guess things about how it is that they travel. So neither of them really flies. Instead, both of them glide. So this is an analogy. What can we do with analogies? I want to give you a few more kind of thoughts about this, and then we'll see how we can use them in arguments. So sheep are to flocks as blank are to schools. So the answer here is fish. This is the name of the group that these things come in. So you might think students are to schools, because we do associate the word students with the word schools. But there's an important difference. So sheep live in flocks. Fish live in schools. This is the social unit of this type of animal. But schools are not a social unit. They're a place that people go. Okay, Tokyo is to Japan as blank is to France. When I did this in my class, I was kind of surprised at how long this took. So Tokyo is the what of Japan. So we could say it's the largest city, we could say it's the capital. Same thing about France. The answer then is going to be Paris. Next one, babies are to mothers as blank are to dogs. So, I can clarify this a little bit. I mean female dogs specifically here. So babies are the young that come from human mothers, and pups are the youngs that come from female dogs. So tempura, common Japanese food, is to vegetables as blank, and the answer is going to be katsu. So again, the property that we are looking at, tonkatsu if you want to be specific, is that we are saying this is the same thing that's breaded and that has been fried. So this is how we're drawing the association here. This is the analogy. Next one, Asaikawa Station is to Asaikawa as blank is to Kyoto. So Asaikawa Station is the largest train station here in Asaikawa. It gets probably a train every 15 to 30 minutes, which is nothing for the people who are from places like Sapporo or Tokyo, but it's pretty big by Hokkaido standards. So what is the similar thing in Kyoto? Answer, Kyoto Station. Alright, Tokyo Banana is to Tokyo as what is to Sapporo? So, Tokyo Banana is a meibutsu. It is something people buy as omiyage when they visit Tokyo. The answer for Sapporo is that we are talking about shuroi koibito. These are delicious white chocolate cookies. Dr. K is to this classroom as blank is to Thursday third period. So assuming you're not taking this from me Thursday third period, my relationship to this class or to this flip is that I'm the instructor. So whatever you happen to have in that period would have the same relationship. Last one, soba is to Japanese food what blank is to Italian food. So we might say something like pasta. This is what people eat as Italian food. This is the way that they kind of roll with that. Alright, I hope that this hasn't been too hard. We're going to step it up, and we're going to look at how to use these things in arguments. First step for looking at how to use these things in arguments is to see how analogies can help us to think. Taking a class in your major is like exercising before a game. So I'm going to need to read this. So exercising hurts and makes us feel sore. Exercising gives us the skills and abilities we need to win the game. Then, it is easy to see this when we're talking about sports. It's really easy to understand how exercise connects to winning in a sport. What that means is we can use that here. So it's harder to see and think about this in a class. So the sport analogy can help us to visualize or to see what it is that we're doing. Another example, learning to speak sign language is like learning to speak English. So I assume if you're watching this video, you have experience learning to speak English or learning to speak some other foreign language. If you do, what that means is that you understand some of the tasks in English learning. So you had to learn different English words. You also would have to learn words if you're going to do sign language. So that's the same. Now, on the same level, at first English was really hard, it was really slow, you couldn't say anything. So the same sort of relationship will probably follow. So we said that this is the same. So we had this pair here, and we're saying we'll get the same thing. So that's how we're seeing how they can help us think. This is the basic idea of arguments by analogy. We're using pictures to think about what we want. Another example. So an infection is like a war. In a war, a country is attacked by an enemy. In an infection, your body is attacked by an enemy, a germ. These germs invade your body through your nose, go into your throat. Once they're inside, they keep on producing more and more things to make you sick. So germs are hard to see. We can't really see them with our eyes, but we can think about wars. We can see that sort of thing visually. So we can use this visual image to help us to understand something that's not visual. So here's the analogy in a picture form. So in the war, enemy soldiers, your country's soldiers, the soldiers win, the war ends. In your body, there's germs fighting against white blood cells. They fight. If the white blood cells win, then the infection ends. So analogies help us to think by giving us a picture and an idea about what we are more familiar with to think about something that is more abstract. So it's often very helpful to use analogies in our thinking. But when do we do this well, when do we do this poorly? So let me give you something we can think about. Imagine Dr. K does not know what an ocean is like. How would you explain it? So what would you do to tell me what an ocean is like? So I've done this exercise several times. So maybe the easiest thing, if you're doing it with a child, you could say it's like a really, really big bathtub where you can't find things in it. It's so deep and so big. Or if I've never seen the ocean, you could say it's like a really big lake. Or you could say, even if you have to, it's like a river, it's full of water. Now, all of these are imperfect, but all of these might help someone who hasn't seen it understand it. These are all imperfect, and we can see that in some ways, but they can also help us anyway. So, if we were asking about why can't I touch the bottom of the ocean, we could explain that just like a lake, there's so much water that it's difficult for you to get to the bottom. Or why shouldn't you pollute the ocean? You could talk about rivers or lakes or even bathtubs and say that when dirty things get in them, it ruins the ability to use these things normally. So there's a lot of different things that we could say on this point, all of which are helpful. So, in this case, we are starting by saying that June is a duck, and we're saying that Saburo is a duck. We're saying about June that June can swim. So, we can guess that Saburo can probably swim too. So we're saying this guy and this guy, they have one thing in common. So then this thing probably is true of the second guy. So this is how an argument by analogy works. Again, notice the word probably. So this is a little bit different from deductive arguments, where we can try and guarantee the truth. Similar example, Aya is from Hokkaido and speaks Japanese, Tetsuya is from Hokkaido. So here, the kind is people from Hokkaido. So this might be a little weaker. A duck is what in philosophy we call a natural kind. It's a certain type of life form. Whereas people from Hokkaido is an artificial kind. But if we have one person from Hokkaido and they speak Japanese, another person from Hokkaido, they probably speak Japanese too. So this is the way we do it with this sort of argument. Basic pattern. Same kind, same property. So A is an X and has Y, B is an X, so it probably has Y too. On to the next example. From same properties to the same kind. So we can move kind of backwards. So A has properties X, Y, and Z, and it is a Q. B has properties X, Y, Z, so it's probably a Q too. So let's talk about my friend Tora. So Tora speaks Japanese, lives in Tokyo, likes tigers and baseball. Tora is a boy. Yuki speaks Japanese, lives in Tokyo, likes tigers and baseball. So Yuki is probably a boy too. So here we have property 1, property 2, property 3, property 4, property 1, property 2, property 3, property 4. And then we're saying all 4 of these properties, and he's a boy. So all 4 of these properties, and he's probably a boy. So this is how argument by analogy works. I'm going to give you a second example. Midori is Japanese. Midori likes soba, somen, ramen, natto, and udon. Natsumi likes soba, somen, ramen, natto, and udon. So, we can probably guess that she's Japanese. So here we have 5 different properties and 5 different properties, and here we have that she is Japanese, and then the same thing. We can guess that a person with all of these properties is also going to be Japanese. Another one. Miyazaki is a boy, Miyazaki is loud, annoying, and likes sports. Taniguchi is a boy. Going from kind to properties, we might guess that he is either loud, annoying, or a boy. Another example. So a rectangle has 4 sides and 4 right angles. A rectangle is a quadrilateral. A square has 4 sides of equal length and 4 right angles. Therefore, we could also guess that a square is a quadrilateral. Again, this time properties to kinds. So we are making an inference. Alright. Another practice problem. Squirrels are mice-like animals. They are covered in fur, they are friendly, they are cute. Stephanie likes squirrels. Hamsters are mice-like animals. They are covered in fur, they are friendly, they are cute. So now properties to kind. So we can also guess that Stephanie likes hamsters. Disneyland is expensive. Disneyland is an amusement park for a famous brand. It is located in Japan. Universal Studios Japan is an amusement park for a famous brand. It is located in Japan. Therefore. So analogies are good or bad based on what we can call fit. So an analogy is either strong or weak as an argument, depending on the fit between the two items. So we could say this is the teki gosei. We could say this is the ao title. This is how well the two things match. So it's always going to be a type of judgment call. Now, fit is also the word we use for clothing. So clothing fits if it is the right size. How do you decide if something is strong? So again, fit is the same concept that we use for clothing. An analogy is strong when the two things that matter are the most similar. So for instance, if I said something is brown and eats nuts, and then I said something else is brown, this is not very strong. If I said something is a squirrel and it eats nuts, I can guess another squirrel is going to also like nuts. Now, brown is not good because it's not an important property. So wolves are also brown, bears are also brown. Maybe they eat nuts, but not in the same way as a squirrel. So the best fit is to have the most important things in common. So for instance, if you're wearing a life jacket, a good fit is one that will be snug. A loose fit means that you will have problems. So to give another analogy, birds of a feather flock together. So there's 4 birds, they're similar in kind. If you have 4 of the same thing, they will probably have similar properties. So, thinking about arguments by analogy, Junko likes baseball, Obiki Keiji likes baseball, Obiki Keiji plays, or at this point played, on the Ham Fighters, therefore Junko plays on the Ham Fighters. So this argument is weak. Why? The answer is that liking baseball and playing on the Ham Fighters are kind of different. This is a much more significant property. Just because you like baseball doesn't mean that you play on the Ham Fighters. So if we just think about that, it's much more sensible to go the other way. So again, what fits liking baseball? Why is it weak? Liking baseball is not all that it takes to play on the Ham Fighters. Weak argument by analogy. James is a guy, Kazuya is a guy, James is short, therefore Kazuya is short. Weak, because the connection between being a guy and being short is not very strong. There's no reason for us to think that yet. But let's see if we can make it stronger. Let's see if we can make it fit better. Alright, let's make it a little bit stronger. James is a Japanese guy, Kazuya is a Japanese guy, James is short, therefore Kazuya is short. This is a little bit stronger, because now we've added that we're talking about someone who is Japanese. So the more things they have in common, the stronger it gets. Japanese guys do tend to be shorter, but there are at least 4 on my campus alone that are taller than me. Let's go further. James is a Japanese guy, Kazuya is a Japanese guy, James and Kazuya are brothers. James is short, therefore Kazuya is short. Now I think we're getting pretty strong, because they're siblings, they have a lot in common, probably they will be similar in this respect as well. The fit is much better. So, fit. Are the common features central to being in that kind? So for instance, Jiro likes the woods and enjoys eating nuts, and his name starts with J. Jiro is a flying squirrel. Junya really likes the woods and enjoys eating nuts, and his name starts with J. Therefore, he's a flying squirrel. So this one is a little bit better than some of the ones we looked at, but it's not a guarantee. Many people do like the woods, many people enjoy eating nuts, and the name starting with J means nothing for this sort of analogy. So what fits? Liking the woods and enjoying nuts. What does not matter? The letter J again. What makes it weak Liking the woods and enjoying nuts are not enough just to pick out squirrels. Many things like the woods and like nuts. So other types of squirrels do. Many animals would eat a nut if they can get one. Now let's make it stronger. Jiro likes the woods and enjoys eating nuts. Jiro is covered in fur and lives in a tree. Jiro is a flying squirrel. Junya really likes the woods and enjoys eating nuts. Junya is covered in fur and lives in a tree. Therefore, Junya is a flying squirrel. Now I think we're looking at a really strong one. The set of properties we're talking about isn't going to apply to many other things. So again, what fits? Liking the woods, enjoying nuts, covered in fur, lives in a tree. What makes it strong? Few animals fit this description with all four, and all four are central to being a flying squirrel. Arguments by analogy are inductive. By that I mean the conclusion is only probable, it can always be wrong. So James lives in England, studies at a British university and speaks English. James is British. Anna lives in England, studies at a British university, and speaks English. Therefore, Anna is British. Seems strong. Someone lives in the country, goes to university there. But in fact, it's not true. Anna is the name of a Japanese friend in Sapporo, and she was studying in England for a year. She just coincidentally has a name that would work in England. So, that's the way these things work, is that it's not guaranteed, but it can be strong and still have a false conclusion. Now, here's a very famous argument by analogy. The world is like a watch because it has many pieces, the pieces are finely made, and they all need to work together. A watch has a creator. So we're saying all of these properties are true of watches and of the world. So if a watch has a creator, the world does too. Now, how well does the argument fit? So the strength is that we're talking about two really complex systems. A weakness is that the world has many problems. So it's more like a broken watch. So it's not necessarily going to get people what they want, but it is a useful type of argument to know. So thank you for watching. If you do have questions, please feel free to ask me. I know the videos vary in quality. I'm working on that. But I do hope that you are gaining from this, and feel free to ask questions either on the YouTube channel or in class. I look forward to hearing from you.